Andrew Yang's Forward Party is gaining some momentum as other former Republicans, Democrats, and independents have joined forces with the former presidential candidate to form what we hope to be a viable third party. In an op-ed for the Washington Post, Yang, along with former Republican lawmakers David Jolly and Christine Todd Whitman, wrote, "We're tired of just talking about a third way, so this month we're merging our three national political organizations, which represent left, right, and center on the political spectrum, to build the launchpad for a new political party called Forward." And a recent Suffolk University USA Today poll shows there's indeed an appetite for a third party. 60% of voters surveyed said that a third party or many parties are necessary. Only 25% were happy with a two-party system. 69% of independents want a third party, the most according to this poll, followed by 67% of Biden voters and just 49% of former Trump voters. Last year, a Gallup poll showed similar results, with 62% saying that a third party is needed. Andrew Yang tweeted out these numbers, which show a breakdown by ideology as opposed to party lines, with the largest appetite for a third party among moderates. So what do you make of that, Briahna?
First of all, I am a little surprised that the number of Democrats who want a third party is almost as high as the number of independents, and it's the Republican number that's significantly lower of the three.
They like their guy.
And I'm especially surprised by that because the pushback I've seen about the Forward Party from the internet seems to be largely from not just liberals, but a lot of leftists who the leftists perceive Andrew Yang as acting in bad faith and that this party is not going to actually solve the fundamental problems of the corporate two-party system. There are no prohibitions against taking corporate money, and there's no proof that it will have the kind of independence that we would hope from a third party, not just like another corrupt party, even though I would argue more parties are still net good.
More, yes.
But the liberal complaint, as always, is that there's going to be a spoiler effect, which, you know, we're going to have 2000 all over again, or Jill Stein 2016 all over again, which I also think is interesting since the bulk of the members of this party so far seem to be of a conservative tilt. So there's this weird asymmetry between liberals hating it, not liking Forward as much as Republicans seem to be in terms of joining and being a member, and also being more afraid than Republicans are about it having a spoiler effect on their elections. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Spoiler complaints are always a little suspicious to me, right? These are complaints that get thrown at the Green Party and get thrown at the Libertarian Party, my own party. So the Libertarian Party draws from some people who vote Libertarian would have otherwise voted Republican, some would have otherwise voted Democrat, many would have otherwise not voted at all, right, or cast a write-in ballot for someone. I would fall into that category, so you can't say that. And you really have only yourself to blame if you're not getting these voters. If you're really interested in these voters, you can speak to their issues and maybe you'll get some of them. You're not owed anyone's vote. It's not everyone has to vote Republican or Democrat, and how dare someone intrude on this and say, don't do either of those things. There's nothing in our system has unfortunately favored the growth of just two political parties, but there's nothing in our laws or our founding documents that necessitates there should only be two parties. It's just this very unfortunate dynamic we have that they don't have in many other countries that seem to me to have healthier political regimes where there is, I'm a free market, I'm a fan of competition. Yeah. More parties would mean more political competition for your votes. You could have issue-based coalitions. That's what seems to happen in other countries, right? Where on this issue, these two or three or four parties unite for a while, and then maybe because of infighting, they shake things up. But we don't get to do that because we just have this horrible duopoly. Yeah, and to be clear, it's not an accident that we only have the two-party system. It's something, it really rattles me and frustrates me when I see Democrats talking about how third parties just aren't effective and the Green Party just can't win, when they have actively tried to oppose third party efforts by doing things like trying to overturn and successfully overturning ballot initiatives to get ranked choice voting, which of course gets rid of the spoiler argument for either major party. And as they did recently in North Carolina, literally push a Green Party candidate off the ballot who had extremely exceeded his signature requirements to get on the ballot, using a Democratic Party acolyte, a lawyer whose eponymous firm, the Mark Elias firm, has represented big players like Hillary Clinton. His firm, they were involved in
cold calling people who had signed the ballot petition, asking if they really wanted to cause the Republican to win, and representing that they were part of the Matthew Hogue campaign or the Green Party locally. Those kind of blatant misrepresentations were caught on tape. And of course, Matthew Hogue is fighting back. But Mark Elias, of course, unsurprisingly, someone who has fought very hard for the Democratic Party to remain only one of two corporate parties, tweeted, before the media gets all excited over this and over reports this, insist they detail how they expect to get on the ballot. It's one thing to announce a new party. It's quite another for it to actually field candidates who appear on real ballots. I thought that was pretty rich, given that he's actively being, litigated against because of his efforts to keep Green parties off the ballot.
It does speak to the strategy, though, that I would recommend to any third party or party that's trying to get going is look at the local level. Pick local races where there are specific issues that you can speak to, and you can, because at the local level you can have success for third parties sometimes.
And the Green Party has been having a great deal of success in places like New York, where in this last cycle they have got a number of candidates elected. But it is frustrating to see that there is some appetite for someone like Matthew Hogue, even on in a Senate campaign, on a U.S. Senate campaign, and I think the influence of someone like Mark Elias getting involved in North Carolina speaks to the fact that there is a real threat that third-party candidates pose. And so I appreciate why people on the left, more broadly speaking, are skeptical of Andrew Yang because of some of the positions that he's taken, this odd kind of pivot that he did in the context of his New York mayoral race. But I do think that even though I might not personally subscribe to, say, the Forward Party over the Green Party in terms of my personal political ideals, I appreciate that this is a huge moneyed, funded effort to achieve some goals that are shared, like getting ranked choice voting, like getting ballot access, that is going to help all other kind of third-party efforts across the country.
Yes, and that's what I would say to people. You really should support, if you're an independent-minded person, if you're a person who is dissatisfied with a lot of what you get from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, you really should support the success and growth of third parties, even if you don't agree with a lot of what they have to say, because realistically, they are not no third party is in any danger right now of taking control of the federal government. Supporting the efforts of third parties is really about supporting the concept of third parties and supporting reforms to our political system, reforms we should absolutely be in favor of, because this is terrible and this is toxic and it's tearing us apart.
Eddie Glaude made this point in the concept of 2016. There's a lot of discussion about throwing your vote away. Don't vote for a third party, you're throwing your vote away. My feeling is, if you live in a deeply red or deeply blue state, the one way you can guarantee your vote is thrown away, this is how I felt in 2016 living in New York, was to vote for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was going to win New York no matter what I did. Voting for a third party candidate, voting for the Green Party to help it get to the 5% mark where it can get federal matching funds and run better candidates and get on the ballot in more places, to me, seemed to be a much better use of my time.
Even if you live in one of the contested states, it never comes down to just one vote. It's still, when we talk about close, we're still talking about thousands of votes. I mean, the closest you could ever get is living in that one county in Florida in 2000 where they printed the ballots wrong, and then even then, it's still hundreds of votes or whatever it was.
Yeah. Wow.
So don't feel like you're throwing your vote away. Vote for your values. Vote for some reform to this system if that so moves you. Not telling you how to vote, obviously. It's up to you. More Rising right after this.